Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy iOS Tuesday. My name is Eugene. I'm an iOS developer. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I talk about iOS, and I decided to do a new project on my channel, iOS Tuesday. So before we jump into our topic today, which we're going to talk about SwiftUI, we're going to talk about the state of SwiftUI. And I'm going to do just a little bit of a housekeeping for my subscribers. So if you've been my subscriber, I appreciate you. I decided to do something for the community, and I was thinking, how do I bring my community, iOS community, and my followers together so we have a place to talk about stuff, to discuss things, and just hang out. I decided to do regular live streams on Tuesday. Normally, we going to go live on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Standard Pacific time. And it's going to be in July, during like July. In August, we're going to take a little. I'm going to take a little break in August because I'm going to be moving to Denver. And when I settle in Denver, the time might change a little bit because I'm going to be on the mountain time. So it's going to be still 5 o'clock, but it's going to be 5 o'clock mountain time. So, and I'm still thinking maybe it's going to be 5 or 6 o'clock. So I will keep you updated. The best way to keep up with my live streams is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do live stream, at least for right now. I do my live stream on YouTube. I do my live stream on Facebook. On Facebook, I created a page a long time ago, awesometester.com, when I was posting stuff about testing. So I'm probably going to keep it that way because there's not a lot of activity there. But people who follow me there, people who follow my content there might be interested in iOS stuff too. So, but like YouTube is the main platform where I talk about iOS, where I do live streams and videos. So the best way to catch me live and get up to date is through my YouTube channel. Also, I will keep you up to date on my Twitter at Eugene iOS Dev. If you have, if you're not following me on Twitter, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I talk mostly about iOS stuff and engage with other developers, other people, the community. I also post my updates there. On iOS Tuesday, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about technical stuff. We're going to talk about iOS. On some Tuesdays, we're going to do live coding. If I have a cool project that I would like to explore with you, or try new API, Apple API live, I will do it on Tuesday Live as well. And on some Tuesdays, like today, which is going to talk about stuff, which is going to talk about technical stuff, which is going to talk about Swift, Apple, career development, and all that good stuff. So if you are new to my live streams, my live streams are normally pretty mellow, and it's very informal. I do have rules for the chat. If you engage with each other and with me on chat, please be respectful. I have zero tolerance for abusive, offensive language. No derogatory remarks, no racist or misogynistic or offensive remarks whatsoever. It includes people and the company, so please be respectful. We're here to talk about iOS. We're here to talk about technology. We're not here to judge and disparage, so please be respectful. So I see two people are joining. Welcome. Welcome to my live stream. Feel free at any point to ask a question, post your thoughts, and just hang out with me. I'm super excited that you're joining my live stream. So, as I said before, we're going to do live streams on Tuesday, and let's start talking about the state of SwiftUI. So, the SwiftUI has been around for about 3 years. We had two iterations of SwiftUI when it was announced, and then last WWDC we had another iteration of SwiftUI. It's gotten better, and this year WWDC they also announced new API, and people were wondering where SwiftUI is in terms of like, is it ready? Like, is it ready for production? Is it okay to use it, and how to use it, and how to integrate SwiftUI with your production app? So we're going to talk about that. So I think the question if SwiftUI is ready for production or not, it's not really relevant question, because SwiftUI is ready for production, in my opinion. And I'm going to say more. I think SwiftUI was ready for production at the first iteration. Yes, we had to do a lot more work ourselves. It was not all the functionality that we have in UIKit was there. It still is not fully there. It's still some of the functionalities for SwiftUI that we have in UIKit is missing. But I think the heavy lifting of constructing UI, building UI is definitely a lot easier. Even if you have to use the first iteration of SwiftUI, if you have to support iOS 13 and you have to use the first iteration of SwiftUI, it is still a lot easier to build UI with SwiftUI, the first iteration, SwiftUI 1, even though like SwiftUI 1, SwiftUI 2, SwiftUI 3 is not a thing. But it's definitely certain complex UI layout and complex animations are easier to do in SwiftUI rather than in UIKit. So what is the state of SwiftUI right now? And I'm talking from my experience. I've been playing around with SwiftUI pretty much since the first iteration, and I've been following really closely the adoption of SwiftUI at different companies, and there are apps that are in production written 100% in SwiftUI. So I think the better question is, what is the state of your app that you're currently working on in regards with SwiftUI? I think the first question that has to be answered is your app ready for production? And the first factor would be your minimum version that you have to support. If you have to support iOS 12 and earlier, your app might not be ready for SwiftUI as of yet, because you do have to support those APIs. If your app minimum version or iOS version is iOS 13, your app might be ready for production. And also, it depends on your app complexity and your app architecture. And it might be unpopular opinion, but I do like UIKit. And for example, if you have UIKit components in your app that are easily maintainable and are working just fine, I don't think you have to jump on SwiftUI train and just rewrite those. And when it comes to SwiftUI adoption, I think there are few or two ways to approach that. The first question is, let's say you have a piece of code or written in UIKit that is difficult to maintain. And when I talk about difficult to maintain code, I'm talking about UI code. So I think that code would be a good candidate to consider SwiftUI and see and play around with that. See if it would be easier for you to replicate the same UI with SwiftUI, and see if it is easier to maintain those components versus your current code. And another approach is when you develop new features, when you develop new screens, when you develop new um, new functionality, develop those in SwiftUI. And again, you don't have to go all out. You can increment those features gradually. So let's say you can start with a small screen, with a small view, and make it SwiftUI view, and then increase as you go and test it out. Test what is compatible with your app. Test what makes sense for your app, and increase it gradually. Increase it really gradually. So, and let's talk about the I don't know how to put it, like the quality of the framework, the different APIs, different things that you can do with SwiftUI. Let's say you don't have minimum version that you have to support. Let's say when iOS 15 is out, as the minimum version that you have to support, the latest and greatest, so you can definitely go ahead and develop everything with the latest SwiftUI API. What is the state of SwiftUI? Where SwiftUI lands? Is it possible to build scalable production application using SwiftUI? I think it is very much possible. And if we look at certain components that like definitely easier to make, for example, every app that we have, not every app, majority of the apps that we have in production, it's some sort of list. It's either a grid or a list with reusable components that user can scroll through and tap on the element and end up on the detail screen. Those are really easy to build with SwiftUI. For example, let's say if you have to build a table view, good old table view, you have to provide table view delegate, table view data source. You have to specify amount of cells or number of cells. You have to configure your cell. You have to configure you have to register your cell. It's a lot of work that goes in a rather trivial thing. So with SwiftUI, you can either utilize list or you can utilize scroll view and do vstack and use for each and create your list that way. Or you can use built-in list with SwiftUI that SwiftUI provides. So I think it's I think in terms of if SwiftUI easier to build those components, it's definitely easier. The grievances that I have with SwiftUI, it comes rather from that certain components are not easily modifiable. For example, let's talk about ListView. ListView, if you have a design that replicates a standard Apple design of ListView, let's say if you look at settings, that would be a good candidate to use ListView. But if you have to do anything rather custom, then ListView is pretty much not that easy to modify. So in most cases, it is really hard to use ListView. You have to create your custom view. Like I said, you can create either grid view or you can create just scroll view, vstack and scroll view, and lay out your list like that. So and those elements you can modify and customize them as you want. But if you want to modify a list view, it's rather difficult to do versus table view. Table view is very much customizable. Table view, you can do a lot of stuff with table view, and you can develop your, or you can build your table view in such a way that it's going to be rather it's sometimes it's hard to tell if it is collection view or if it is table view because of how you modify those API, what you can do with UIKit code. And with SwiftUI List, unfortunately, you can do that. And I really hope the next iteration of SwiftUI will give us more flexibility to modify certain components. Another uh, uh, another not difficult component, but not as modifiable component is a text field. The text field in UIKit is very much modifiable. It's really easy to modify. It's really easy to provide like certain feel to text field in UIKit. With SwiftUI, you can do that, but again, it's not as trivial. You have to use a number of tricks to customize your text view to the point that you really like, that you really want. And if you have very custom design for your text field, then it's really it's not as easy. It's not as easy to do, honestly. So I really would like to see a little bit more flexibility um, with text fields in SwiftUI. And with new Apple announcement, I know iOS community was talking about search field or search bar for your views. Now we have searchable modifier. Now you can provide search bar. But again, if your search bar is rather customized. So, for example, for certain apps, your search bar may not appear right away. It might be a search button, and then you display a search bar. It's not as easy. It's not as easy to do, or at least I haven't played around with that with SwiftUI, where you have a button where you have search button, and as you click on or as you tap on the search button, you see the search bar. Searchable modifier will just hang that search bar there, and it's just there. Or for one of my courses that I built on my YouTube channel, where I use two search bars. And again, with UIKit, it's rather easy to do. So when you start typing or you start searching on your text field, another text field will slide out of your search bar, and you can utilize two search terms for certain API. Again, you have to build a custom view with SwiftUI. And again, building a custom view in SwiftUI, it is doable, and it's rather easier than building a custom component in UIKit. But again, I would like those components, those APIs provided by Apple, be easily modifiable. Easily modifiable. So another another update from SwiftUI this year was a sync image. And the idea of async image is really cool. I would like to have a component or like async image component in both in UIKit and in SwiftUI, but it feels like it's a little not ready. It was a little rushed because the when you use images on your reusable view or on your list or on your grid, anything scrollable, you can cache it. So it will reload image every time user scrolls up and down. So for static images, for let's say you have your list view and you utilize SD web image view, for example, and for your detail view, you utilize async image because it is just one image on that screen and nothing is scrolling. I think that would be fine, but utilizing async image on the list view, it's rather difficult. I'm and there is a way to make it to provide cache with async image. Like you have to build that, you have to write that code yourself. But again, at that point, like, do you it kind of doesn't make sense utilize async image. At that point, you can build out your custom async image with cache, utilizing utilizing image, utilizing a custom view, utilizing certain techniques that you can cache your images yourself, or like I said before, you can use SD web image. You can use SD web image. So, and again, Swift. When we compare SwiftUI framework to UIKit framework, I think what I really want is rather parity with UIKit. And I understand, like, UIKit is an old framework, and SwiftUI may not need to have 100% parity, but certain things that we used to in UIKit, we can utilize or provide similar or maybe the same API with SwiftUI. For example, now we have compositional view layout for collection view. Compositional view layout collection view is not available in SwiftUI. You again, like, you can do that work yourself, but that work is rather difficult. You have to write a lot of code, versus with compositional view layout, and the API, the framework does that work for you. So again, and I think that would be a good candidate for SwiftUI Grid or SwiftUI, or create a new view, like composition view layout view, something like that. So I see people joining in and out. So if you're joining my live stream, welcome to my live stream. Let me know if you have any questions or any thoughts. And we're talking about the state of SwiftUI, and I would like to hear your thoughts. What do you think is what is the state of SwiftUI? How would you use SwiftUI in your production app? Is your app that you're working on ready for SwiftUI? Or maybe you're already working with SwiftUI in your production app, and I would like to hear your experiences. So the chat is open to everyone. Please let me know what you think. Let me know your experiences with SwiftUI. I'm very, very curious. Speaking of the state of SwiftUI, I kind of talked about earlier, but I think it depends a lot on your production app and how much legacy code you have in your production app. And I think incremental approach incremental approach for SwiftUI would be like absolutely a good place to start. For example, one of the ways you can play around with SwiftUI, utilizing previews, and so you don't have to relaunch your app every single time you modify your component. You can use previews, SwiftUI previews, to see like your changes that you made for your app. and see how it works. See if it works well for your application. Uh, Add a small component, small UI component in your UIKit, and see if your UIKit code like works well with SwiftUI. So I would start there. And what I like about how Apple approaches the whole SwiftUI development, that they're like this time around they're moving slowly, and they try to deliver, and they do deliver quality work, because as a new framework, I think it's really smart to go slow, because you can go fast and deliver all of the features that community requests, but those features for one or the other reason are unstable, and then it's really difficult to maintain. Then it's really difficult to you have to do a lot of work. You have to do a lot of work around. So I really like that slow approach, and they approach Apple framework development or SDK development step by step. So I think it's really good. But with all of the APIs that SwiftUI has, I think it's very it's going to be really beneficial for any team to use SwiftUI as a UI framework. And again, I don't say I don't I'm not a fan of rewriting everything in SwiftUI, rewriting the whole app with SwiftUI. And again, it depends on the app. So let's say if you have Objective-C app and you would like to modernize your code base and make your code more modern, then maybe rewriting your app from Objective-C to SwiftUI, maybe that makes sense. And that would be a good experiment to slowly rewrite your Objective-C code and Objective-C app with your SwiftUI code. That would be a good candidate. But if you have Swift app written in written in UIKit, in Swift with UIKit, I don't think that I can possibly think of a good reason to utilize to rewrite that app from scratch with SwiftUI. New features, new components. Yeah, I think that makes sense to get used to new way of development, new way of delivering your features with SwiftUI, and that would make sense. Another point with SwiftUI, another request that I would have for SwiftUI team is the way to test your components, SwiftUI components, SwiftUI views, unit test your SwiftUI views natively. Because if you look at UIKit code, you can test your view controllers in your unit test. I mean, it's not as easy to test view controllers with unit tests, to be honest with you, but it is doable. It is possible. With SwiftUI, and there is a third-party library that you can utilize. I played around with that library a little bit, and I honestly I couldn't really figure out like a reliable way to unit test your SwiftUI views with unit tests. UI test and UI tests are different from unit tests. UI tests work beautifully with SwiftUI. I encounter minor issues with search bar, not new API searchable modifier, but like custom component. When with UI tests, you can start typing. There's a API, there's a method type and you can type text there, and for some reason the first letter or first two letters I'm not always typing. But again, it was a while ago. It was the I think it was the second iteration of SwiftUI. I haven't tried any UI test with SwiftUI on Xcode beta. Maybe that issue is fixed, but testing your views with UI with UI tests is very much doable. But for certain teams, for example, my team, we're really, really serious about unit testing. We're really, really serious about providing good test coverage. We do test-driven development. And for the team that is doing test-driven development, start developing SwiftUI views. Right now, it's going to be one of our major challenges. So, and you could argue you can provide your view models and provide all the business logic in your view models, which is a right way, which would be a right approach to do so. But still, we are very serious about our views and view controllers, and we want to make sure that our views are laid out and displayed correctly. And that would be one of the major hurdles for us to start using like SwiftUI all out. That would be either we would have to figure out how to use third-party library for SwiftUI unit testing, or heavily rely on UI tests. And I don't think that UI test is a absolutely reliable way to test your SwiftUI views. I would like to test out the whatever logic is displayed in the UI code. I would like to test that logic as well, because even though the whole business logic lives in view model, if we talk about MVVM pattern, still, I would like to make sure that my views are still behaving the way I intended to behave. So I think I'm going to pose here for questions. Do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts? I see a lot of people are joining, and I would like to hear from you all. What are your thoughts about SwiftUI? Have you worked with SwiftUI in your production app? And if you have SwiftUI code in your production app, I'm very curious about how you go about unit testing. Do you write unit tests for your SwiftUI views, and what do you use for that? And what techniques do you use? Techniques do you use for that? So I'm super curious to hear that. So if you have any thoughts, if you have anything really, if you want to just like chill and chat and ask me questions, feel free to do so. Like, it's really, really chill and pretty much freestyle chat. So feel free to post your questions in the chat. So, but in terms of SwiftUI state right now, I think SwiftUI is definitely getting more stable. SwiftUI is definitely getting more stable. Oh, we have a new comment here. So I think right now a good mix of SwiftUI plus UIKit is good. I agree with you, and I don't think that for a big scalable apps that we have right now, that we work right now in production, I don't think it will be wise to go just all the way SwiftUI. I think for certain functionalities, you do have to utilize And you do have to utilize UIKit. And I agree with you. SwiftUI and UIKit is a good combination. It's absolutely a good combination. Yeah, thank you so much for your question. So, what else? I was gonna say something. I had a thought and I lost it. Oh yeah, like SwiftUI. I think SwiftUI is definitely getting more stable. And if you remember the very first iteration with SwiftUI, there were a lot of bugs. There were a lot of issues. Maybe not a lot, but like there were certain issues that people couldn't figure out how to do, or like certain behavior, certain weirdness with SwiftUI, and slowly but surely is being fixed, and SwiftUI becoming more and more stable framework. So I think this is pretty much all what I had to say about SwiftUI and the state of SwiftUI. This topic was actually on my mind for a long time. I really wanted to talk with the community and get together with the community about what we think about SwiftUI, and kind of put my thoughts out there, because I hear a lot of discussions. I hear a lot of discussions at work about SwiftUI. I hear a lot of discussions on Twitter and tech communities about SwiftUI. I know there are a good number of developers who are still trying to get up to speed with SwiftUI. And one thing I'm going to say for sure. So if you're on Replay Crew and you get to this point, one thing I would like to point out, that if you're learning iOS development, or if you are an iOS developer, I think it's about time to start learning SwiftUI. And as a new iOS developer, you might be curious: should I learn SwiftUI? Should I learn UIKit? I think at this point you have to learn both, because when I was looking for a job, all of my uh, take-home assignment, all of my take-home assignments I've done in SwiftUI, and I got really, really positive feedback for those assignments, because people are and people are getting really excited about it. My reviewers, they ask me a lot of questions. And my reviewers asked me about a lot of questions: how I implement certain features, why I implement that certain features in that way. And it was a little different from my UIKit take-home assignments. On my UIKit assignments, people rather were trying to grill me and, like, point out certain bugs and things like that. For SwiftUI, I see genuine excitement in the community. Nick posted, I'm seeing jobs posting for it right now. Yeah, I see. Like, it's true, and it's interesting that you said that. I get a lot more requests from the recruiters about job posting with SwiftUI, and it's one of the must-have requirements for certain applications. And if not, like, and a lot of requirements are rather like, you have to be okay with learning SwiftUI, rather than like, yeah, you have to be SwiftUI guru. Because honestly, I don't think that we have a lot of SwiftUI gurus right now, because it is it is a new framework. I don't consider myself SwiftUI guru. There are a lot of APIs that I need to learn myself and, like, better myself. For example, Geometry Reader. I play with Geometry Reader a little bit, but you can do so much with Geometry Reader, and you can build really, really beautiful animations and really, really beautiful apps with that. So we're about at 40 minutes. And I'm going to thank all of you who came to my live stream. And if you are on the replay, thank you. I hope you hang out to the end till the end. Subscribe to my channel, like the video. It helps with the YouTube algorithms. And yeah, yeah, thank you, Nick, for hanging out. So glad I started learning when I came in. And yeah, like it's a great framework, and yeah, I'm gonna say goodbye one more time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for making it to iOS Tuesday. I will see you live next Tuesday, and thank you so much. See you. Bye, y'all.